to talk today about the SR&ED tax credit in Canada, specifically addressed to the software development industry. Basically, the Canada Revenue Agency defines an SR&ED project, scientific research and experimental development, as a set of interrelated activities, okay, that collectively attempt a technological advancement. We're going to discuss what each of these terms are, which means that they have to overcome a technological uncertainty. And lastly, they're pursued systematically by qualified individuals. The very first one, technological advancement, is a little bit nebulous. Show a technological advancement. First, you have to tell them where you're starting from. And the term that they use is called standard practice. So they say, what information is readily available to someone with basic training in that field of science? Okay, so you have to say, well, what field of science am I in? Is it medicine? Is it aerospace? Is it software development? And what would be readily available to someone with basic college or university training? If you don't have that kind of formal training, they want to see 2 to 3 years industry experience. So they also recognize that information may be proprietary to a competitor, they say, or known only in specialist or academic circles. What they really want to see is what steps did you take to find out if a solution was out there, or what methods were available, and what were the shortcomings. That brings us to the next major criteria, the second of the criteria that we want to show that we've met, and that's technological uncertainty. This is really the crux of the entire process. The government says that technological uncertainty can occur in either of 2 ways. One is scientific uncertainty. They say, quote, the taxpayer may be uncertain whether the goals can be achieved at all. No one in the world has ever done this. That's great, but that's probably less than 1% of the eligible claims that I see a year. The vast majority of the claims aim at something called system uncertainty. So they say, quote, the taxpayer may be fairly confident the goals can be achieved, but uncertain which of several alternatives. For instance, paths, routes, approaches, equipment configurations, system architectures, circuit techniques, and so forth will either be feasible to meet desired specs or cost targets, or both of these. What the Act says, and the CRA, is that the work should show the presence of analysis or experiment. Okay? So you can do either of those, the result and the conclusions that you made. Results are less important than conclusions. What did I learn now with respect to the variables in question that I didn't know at the start of the day? And if you can illustrate that, you probably have an eligible claim. So the last part that we ask is what it really shows us the crux of what we need to see for the last stage. And really we're saying that experimentation can only be done in 3 different ways. The first is pure analysis. I analyzed or simulated alternatives on a computer. Okay? Great. That tends to be the quickest. The next is I actually went out onto a shop floor, more in manufacturing environments, and I did process trials. I actually took machinery apart and put it in and put it back and had to flush it and clean it, whatever. That takes a little more time typically than just analyzing ideas on a computer. And the last is to do a complete prototype. Okay, the software program isn't going to work, or we can't tweak it, we can't try different things, we're going to have to start from scratch and do a complete prototype. And then usually step B with that is you don't nail the prototype on the first try, you have 12, 15, 30 revisions before finally you get something you deem as acceptable. Okay? We try to get those metrics of how many of those different things did you look at, because at the end of the day, the Canada Revenue Agency reviewer is going to say, well, you spent 600 man hours here. And I've seen a project for $1 million written on a single piece of paper. We did 43 different prototypes in 7 different classes. Here's what's different about each class, and here's the variables within there. And the CLA reviewer looked at it and said, hey, I used to do this work. I'm surprised you could do this only for $1 million.